Custom Garage. What I've done under the car is I cut the muffler, right there, out. Took the drive shaft out. Cut the other exhaust off. I would disconnect it up at the manifold. I've disconnected the clutch pedal linkage, which is, I don't know if I can't see that from here without the light in my eyes. Next thing to do will be disconnect the shifting linkage, and then I can disconnect the transmission cross member and transmission from the cross member. Disconnect both the engine mounts, and we should be able to pick this motor out of here. So I'm going to get this other exhaust pipe off, get this cross member off, put a jack underneath it. Now I gotta let the car down too, so I'm gonna let the car down first, then put the jack underneath it, the transmission, and disconnect that. Then we should be in good shape. What we gotta do here is get up and get that linkage off. There's a bolt here, I believe one up here, and hopefully I take that off. Then I'll get the shifter off the transmission. Then I gotta go up front, up on the front of the rods, and disconnect the rods. And we can get the shifter out of there. And that should free it up so we can get the transmission out. There's a couple bolts here to take off. I've already taken the ones off the bottom here. And that should get us in good shape. Okay, so we got the motor mounts loose, got training mounts loose. Let's get this thing out of here. First thing I'm going to do is drop the back of the training down. I got it on a jack right now. So we're gonna stop for tonight. Tomorrow morning, once it's, it's light out, I'm gonna back this out, pick the motor up, and put it next to the next bay over out of the way. One less thing in here to get the trip over. Clean up all the mess in here tomorrow, and then we'll start working on the frame rails and the floor pans and get all that stuff done. We got the motor out. I put a strap on the transmission. to hold it level so I can move it around. I'm going to put it in the other bay later on. We're going to work on this fender for first. So I cut a patch, got it tacked. I'm going to tack it in, hammer and dolly, make sure it's perfectly flat all the way around. And then we're going to weld this up solid. And that'll be it for this fender. This fender just got some body work to do on it. I got a little spot right there I got to take care of. But the rest of it looks good. So we're going to do that. I got the furnace guy coming today. Hopefully he can get the furnace fixed and get some heat in here, because I'm just using the kerosene heater for now. But I like to have the furnace running. But we're going to work on this fender today. Once the heat's fixed, we're going to get back on to doing the floors. I've got all the parts here now that I had to order to get the rocker fixed, the A-pillar fixed. Both doors came in. I'll show you those later. They got a little damage on them in shipping, but nothing out of the ordinary for sure. And we'll keep continuing on this. Now we got a tack, so we're going to hammer and dolly this into shape. And then we're going to weld it up completely. This fender now is good. I welded up that spot. Welded up the little spot in the bottom. We're going to put some rust inhibitor on this now. I'm using OSFO, prepares rust surfaces for painting. So we're going to use this. Wipe this whole thing down with it, let it dry, go by the directions. I think it's 24 hours or something to dry. I'll read the directions on that. So we'll put this on today, and then we'll let it sit for a couple days, and then we'll get back to it, get some primer on it. We got the furnace working, so now we've got heat. So hopefully next weekend we can get some painting going on the Jetta, and we'll do both these in between. Okay, I applied a coat of the OSFO rust inhibitor on here. Put it in a little cup. Got a cheapo brush. Just brushed it on like this. Directions say let it dry a minimum of 24 hours. Anything that has rust will turn black. So it says a light coat, so I put it on about as light as I possibly can. I'm just going to brush over it again, make sure there's nothing saggy or wet on it. Let it dry. And we'll give it a day and we'll see what it looks like. And we'll give it a couple days if that's what it needs. Well, we got the motor out. We got the car. We pushed the car out of the garage. I cleaned up. Pushed it back in, got it on jack stands. It's on the mounting points. It's on the rear axle and the front suspension. And sitting here, all my doors open and close real good. My gaps are good. So this is where I want the body to stay. As long as I'm doing the structural, I want everything to be where it opens and closes nice. First piece we got to put in is this here is the front rocker. That goes behind this, behind this, behind this. So to get this out, we're gonna have to take out the torque box and the inner rocker. It's just a flat piece of metal. We'll take all of those out, and then we can have access to this. It's the first piece we got to put in. I want to leave some stuff around for measurements purposes, so I'm going to try to leave this tab here so I can go from there to here. I'll probably take a measurement down to the ground too, just to make sure in case something moves, so I'll know where everything was. So we're going to take everything apart so we can get to this outer rocker. First thing I want to do, I want to cut straight down here and take this inner piece out. I've got some welds in here. I'm going to weld it solid across here. I'm going to cut just below that and get that so I can get it loose. Okay, let's see if you can see this, but this is the inner rocker, just a flat piece of metal with an angle on the end, which come out here. That's why I cut it right there. Now with this off, we can get to this. So we're gonna save this as a template to make the new panel, and then it'll go right back in brand new. So we're gonna save this. We're gonna go back onto this. Okay, this is the inside of the rocker, and you see those little rust spots. Each one of those is a weld. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my belt sander. I'm gonna grind all of these out like this, get them all ground down so that doesn't destroy the outer panel, but it will clean all this up nice. Now, as you can see, we got some rust underneath here to deal with also. Where is it? There we go. Well, there's some rust I gotta deal with also, which I'll make a piece for that. But first we'll get this piece put in. So we'll get this piece out. I'm gonna grind all these now, and then we'll continue building this thing back out from the inside out. Okay, now you get the piece out and do some final cleaning up here. Okay, we got this piece in place. I measured it from a mark I have here down to here, so it's about the right height. So you don't have to be exact, but it's got to be close. And we'll weld up. I put holes here, spot weld holes. We're going to weld this all up. And then we'll move back into the inside, start working our way back in. So we got the outer rocker done. Now we're going to make an inner rocker. So I'm going to grab a piece of steel and trace out the piece I cut out to duplicate that so I can put it in the back of that, and we'll show you that next. So I took that piece to the inner rocker and I transferred it onto this piece of plate steel here. Measured the angle here, which is 1 inch. Okay, I got 1 inch here. I'm going to cut it along there. And that's the notch around the door. And this will replace this rusted out old piece. So we're going to get this cut up and we'll come back. So here it is. We got a 90-degree bend on one end that goes against the torque box. We got the little notch cut out for the door jamb. Once it's put in place, we'll just grind down and make it so it fits exactly the same. This should be pretty close to where we cut it. And let's set it in there and see how it fits. Okay, so here's the piece. This is 16 gauge steel, so it's going to be plenty thick enough. So now you can see up close, the inner rocker now was welded in. I left these 3 holes here open so I can repair the outer rocker, and then I'll weld these together. But for now, this is here, this is solid. It ain't going nowhere, and it's nice and strong. The next thing I need to do is remove this frame rail. So we'll get the frame rail out of here. Gotta get taken off here and here off of this, and then get welded onto the front frame, because the torque box goes in between the frame rail and the rocker. So next thing we'll do is we'll get this thing out, replace it with a new one, and then we're going to take the floor out and the torque box, and we'll put the new ones, those in. Back on deck. 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 Yesterday, we got the outer rocker and the inner rocker on this welded in. Okay, we cleaned up on the floor in here, and we drilled out the frame rail. Now, frame rails get a lot of welds. That's the end of the frame rail. That goes onto the front of the frame rail. This goes in here and then in place. So I'm gonna get that in place. I'm gonna tack weld that in. Pre-drilled all the holes up here even to put onto this. So we should be in pretty good shape there. I mean, actually, yeah, I'm gonna weld the other sides from the inside. So I'll weld these on the inside, and that'll get the frame rail in place. If I get that done on a Monday night, that's not bad. If I can, I'll move further and start taking the floor out. So let's get this rail put in and see how far we can get today. Okay, so I stuck a jack under the frame rail. I'm gonna push it all the way in, and I wanna measure it from the other side, getting sure where I wanna be. And then we're gonna jack it up in the front just to hold it and then start tack welding it, or actually start welding it. That should be close. I'm gonna clamp it in place and then measure it. Okay, that's pretty close. Now we'll get some measurements. Okay, measured both sides. They're 10.5 inches. That should be fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tack it here and here so that this brace is holding it where it needs to be. And then I'm going to put the floor in and make sure that it's flat across. So we'll bend that out of the way. We don't need that in the way. So So let's get a couple tacks on this. I'm gonna actually put clamp on both sides and then weld it in the middle. That'll hold that in place. Okay, there's 3 welds on the top. That's going to hold this steady enough. We're going to drip the floor, we're going to put the floor in. I'm going to check to make sure it's straight across here. Hopefully it is, because we don't want to have to move it. Well, let's take a peek. I'll make sure this is good. So, all right, let's grab the floor. Okay, this is the view from the bottom. What I'm looking for is it to be pretty even across, and it's pretty close. It's got to move over just a little bit, but it's not bad. So what I can do now is trim the floor down. You see it's pretty close to where it needs to be, but the floor isn't supposed to be that long on the bottom. So the floor length is supposed to end right there where the hump, where the center is. So I'll cut this across here, just about in that same spot. And then we're going to trim the floor down so that it fits better. Because as you can see, it's just still a little too high. So it needs to go down a little bit, but we'll get to that. We're going to trim that piece back. We'll trim this up a little bit so it fits better. Then we'll mark the floor, we'll cut the floor, the rest of it out, so this thing fits nice and flat. Once I know it fits flat, then we'll work on putting the torque box in and then making the front floor section. The bottom floor goes over the top floor. And the reason for that would be when water washes from the front of the car to the back of the car, you don't want to have an edge where the water can get in. So you always start where it overlaps going backwards, so that water is always pushing away and not pushing underneath your panels. So we're going to trim this floor in the front. Probably going to trim off this back piece. Let's see what's underneath there, make sure it's okay. If not, let's trim the back piece off, and we'll get this floor to fit better. Okay, what I did here was mark the floor right here. That's where the line is on the hump, so I know how long the floor was. I took a square from the flat side. I know this is flat, so I marked it from here to the edge of that, which is right there, and then I marked this side. So that gives me this line. I transfer that to the back. Now I'm going to flip it over, and we'll draw a line across the floor. Now I know the floor is going to be straight across. Because the factory didn't have that upswing like that. It's something they did, and I don't want that. I want it to look like factory floor. So let's see where I transferred the line over to here. Okay, marked it to there. Now I got a straight line across. And the end of this should match there, and it does. So at least now I know I got a straight line across. I'm gonna cut that, and then we're gonna fit it in the car. Okay, you can see I trimmed the back. This will fit down here nice and tight. We'll clean all this up. It'll come across. Then we cut the front. And I got it clamped there, there, and there. So that's onto the frame. We'll trim off the excess here that we don't need. I give it about a 3/4 inch overlap. And weld to it, top and bottom, so it's good and strong. Obviously, you don't want the floor as part of your structure in this, so you definitely want it to be nice and tight. It's going to be good here. I got to do a cleaning where the old panel was. We'll clean all that up, and this will fit up tight against here. And what we'll do now is we'll build the floor and the torque box up to this floor, so everything fits nice and tight. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out that torque box and get that thing out of there. And then we can put the new torque box in, which I still need to modify to be a coupe torque box instead of a convertible torque box. But we'll show you that. It's no big deal. Okay, so that's it for tonight. We got the floor in. It's not permanently in, but we know it's going to fit. We made patch for the torque box. I had another torque box piece that was missing the top, so I cut that out to make this piece. I'll weld this in tomorrow night, and we'll see how it fits in there. I might have to add a piece on this side as well, but I won't know until I get it up in there. Tomorrow we'll remove the old torque box, which is there. Get that thing out, and once the torque box is in, we'll get the floors in. We got to patch this cowl piece here. I'll make a piece for that. And we'll just keep moving on. Little progress every day goes a long way. So we're just going to keep going. Okay, so this video is getting kind of long, so we're going to cut it here. Next week, we'll finish welding the torque box. We're going to clean the floors, get the rust off them, and weld them in. So once we get the floors welded in, we're going to attack the front frame rails, all the front stuff on the driver's side, and then we'll move on to the passenger side, and we'll do the whole job over. That way the front floors forward will be solid. Then we'll hit the back. We'll do the trunk floor and the trunk frame rails. And once we're solid, we can start getting the bodywork done. We're going to call it a video, and I'd like to thank all the new subscribers. Thank the old subscribers for keep coming back and watching this. Please, if you're not subscribed, please hit subscribe. Hit the likes, shares, notifications, leave a comment. I really appreciate you guys. And we'll see you on the next one.